So welcome back, everyone. I'm excited about bringing on my next guest, who is Susan Pintel. She's the owner of PENTEL Family Law. One of my favorite subjects, especially on the Friday when the weekend's going to happen, is divorce. Welcome to the show. I want you to tell everybody first a little bit about yourself and obviously what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Susan Pintel. I've been a family law attorney for 18 years here in the Phoenix area. And like Carol said, I handle divorce and family law, including custody and child support, spousal maintenance, premarital, postmarital agreements, all the fun stuff, like you said.
Yeah, and one of the best things about being on this show is it offers you a place to be able to educate,
Yes.
the public out there, because there's things that we just don't know about. And what you said to me today, well, actually you would email it to me, was that you said that, Carol, today we're going to talk about children.
Yes.
What a great subject, because, there's a lot of people that don't understand. So we're going to talk a little bit about what this involves. But there's also grandparents that are taking care of their children today,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we've got a lot to talk about.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm going to let you go ahead and do this, because that says I'm not married, and that's what I want you to...
So I want to talk to people who are not married. And
How about divorce, though? Is that including them?
No, it's not. That's why I
Just
want
people who have never been married.
People who have never been married.
Okay.
It's completely different, and I think it's so important because I'm getting so many phone calls these days from people saying, "Look, Susan, my finances are tight. I really don't want to talk to an attorney, but I've had this agreement with my significant other. We've been raising the kids okay. Something happened, and now he or she is, telling me that we're not going to be able to keep going on this verbal agreement that we've had for the past 2 years or 3 years. And so what do I do now?" And it's really important that people understand that if you don't have a court order, you really don't have anything that's enforceable. And what this really translates into, Carol, is I have a lot of men who call me and say, "Hey, the mother of my children just found this other person, and she told me last week that she's moving out of state. What can I do?" And that's a really big deal, because even though you're on the birth certificate, you're the dad, you really don't have the legal rights to stop mom from getting up and moving out unless you file something with the court, and there's a preliminary injunction that says you shall not leave the state without a court order or a written agreement by the other parent. And a lot of people don't understand that. And likewise, women tell me, "Hey, Susan, I just found out that my children's dad is now doing X, Y, and Z, and I don't think that's a really good environment. So I stopped allowing the kids to go with him, and now he's filed this case. Like, why did that happen?" Well, because again, when circumstances change and there's nothing enforceable, you want security, right? You want to continue to do what you were doing, and you're not going to have that unless a court steps in.
Right, and that's where you need an attorney.
Yeah.
I'm going to first of all talk to everybody out there about something. A lot of people go to Dr. Google all the time, and they get this information, but I'm absolutely positive there's no way that it's going to explain it like you,
Right.
okay? And, it's interesting because, there's a lot of people out there that get together, and things happen, they have a kid, whatever, they're not married, and now they really have to make sure that they're protected.
Yeah, I mean, I had a consultation with a gentleman this week, and I get it. Artificial intelligence, AI, chat, GPT, whatever, we all use it for one reason or another. And I'm not against that. I think it's a great tool if you know how to use it. And I think what people get really caught up on is, well, I have all the answers that I need. And up to a certain point, like I shared with you on a past program, it's a great tool to fill in the gaps, but they don't know your judge, and they don't know how the things work in Maricopa County or in other counties throughout the state. And I think that's where, if you just rely solely on that, you're doing yourself a disservice, because the attorney's job is to appear in front of the judges, right? And like the subtleties, and how the pendulum swings in terms of some issues and where the discretion lies. And maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, AI will get that really great with those details.
Yeah, it's impossible.
But we're not there yet. And so the point is that if you don't know what questions to ask, you're not going to get that information. And so I had a gentleman earlier this week, and he said, "Hey, I've already put everything through Chat GPT. I just want to know if I can afford you." and blah, blah, blah. And I said, whoa, hang on a second. Like, I don't think that you even have the ability today to go into court and file something. And he said, well, I have all this information. And I said, but did you even ask, when you put in your information, did you ask when you were allowed to file for a modification? So when you miss something as basic as that, you get this beautiful answer, but you still aren't going to do it right because you're going to go and the court's going to reject it because you cannot modify a parenting plan less than 12 months from the time that the last order was put in place, with some exceptions, which I'm not going to necessarily get into. But again, he didn't ask. The AI answer didn't give it to him, and he was like, had this pleading and it was rejected, and he's like, why?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So you need to make a phone call. So you could either call or text. Her phone number is 480-397-2261. And for texting, it's 520-355-4483. You can check her out on Pintel, PINTEL law.com. And then the other thing is that you do free 1-hour consultations. Go ahead, let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So, again, just with that gentleman earlier this week, he was really upset. He was looking at the substance of the petition. And I think that in a half-hour free phone consultation, which I provide, I was able to give him the answer, right? This is what happened. The deadline, you can't file until like October of this year. Okay. He said, thank you for being really honest, and I'll keep your number, and I'll refer you out to some friends. And I think it sounds corny, but you do good, and it comes back to you.
Right.
And sure enough, I got 2 other phone calls from that gentleman who said, yeah, she's honest, and she's gonna tell you what's going on, and she won't really take you for a ride. And I think that's really invaluable. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's come on over here, because parenting time is a lot more, because it also involves when people are just here, right?
Yeah.
And what you said earlier too was that you said the person might have not liked what was going on in the home,
Yeah.
and that was something else that you brought up about, not that I think I'd like to talk about that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, first of all, I always ask people that call in, do you already have an order? That is really the starting point, right? Because if you don't have an order, I really don't have anything to enforce for you today, okay? So we would have to file to establish legal decision-making, parenting, time, child support, okay? And that informal verbal agreement that you've had with that other person, we can use that as the blueprint, right? Like if you've been seeing your child Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays every week for the past 3 years, and you have alternate weekends, great. What changed, right? Well, so typically what happens is somebody gets like somebody else in their life. So the new boyfriend or the new girlfriend, or something happens, and we don't have any more time anymore, and that changes the dynamic. So that you have to be aware is a really good reason why you wanted that court order in the first place, right? So that when those circumstances come up in life, that person who has that new boyfriend or girlfriend, or who decides to move across town, can't just unilaterally tell you, okay, we've moved things. The court order is really going to be helpful for you. And that's what I want to stress. I want to understand in the free half-hour phone consultation, do you have an order? Do you have a court order? If you do, when was the last time that it was entered? Because then I can't modify it for you unless 12 months have gone by. There are some exceptions. And frankly, if you have something where the order is not being followed, that's not a modification. That's an enforcement. And we can jump on that sooner than the 12 months.
But that's an enforcement.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be law. That's like the law.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Well, before we go to a break, and because I know that you have a lot here right now, but I want to ask you, what is the number one thing that happens when it comes to children? Is it them, somebody leaving the state?
Yeah, the number one thing that I see
or
a lot.
Money.
A lot of what I see right now in terms of the people that are calling me. Arizona is a really great state. A lot of people come for numerous reasons, but it's not like your third generation. So a lot of people are very transient through Arizona, so they pick up and go. And so if you don't have that court order, that other person's going to pick up the kid and go. And that's the biggest problem.
Right. The other thing is getting your money.
Yeah, the child support, again, unless you have that court order, a lot of people call and say, they're no longer paying. What can I do? Well, if it wasn't an order in the first place, again, I don't have anything to enforce, and you may not have been getting the right amount. That's a huge mistake. And I understand you don't want to rock the boat, but by the same token, you know, you do have to have the order appropriately, accurately entered, because you do absolutely need it to help your child, right?
I'm
That's what
sorry,
it's for.
I don't know anyone that doesn't want to rock the boat when it comes to your child support. As that's if you are, I don't know. That makes no sense whatsoever. Because if you're not using it for you, you're using it for your children.
Yeah.
We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more about that. And her phone number is 480-397-2261. Or for texting, it's 520-355-4483. It's PENTELLaw.com.
You know, talking about rocking the boat, I get a lot of people who tell me I'm not comfortable, or I'm scared.
We want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I always tell people I understand, but you're not making it any better for yourself, right? I mean, if you're entitled to this amount of money, you should be getting it.
I don't get that.
Well, there are lots of threats, and people just say, well, if you don't just allow me to pay you whatever I want, then you may not get the parenting time that I've been giving you, right? And so it turns into this really very strange quid pro quo. Like, if you don't rock the boat on child support, I won't rock your boat on the parenting time. I'll look the other way. I'll work better with you. But those are the kinds of scenarios where if people are behaving that way anyway, you might as well just get what's really appropriate for your circumstance. And then both people are going to be unhappy to a certain degree, but it really is what you should have been getting anyway, both ways, yeah.
Yeah, but you said they feel, what was the word that you used?
They're just scared. I mean, I have a lot of people who call me and say, I don't really want to do this because I'm scared if I do this of what the other person's going to do to me. And I say, right, but, you know, if you're scared of getting the child support that you're entitled to receive because you think that the other parent's going to come in and try to get more parenting time, I mean, there is a grain of truth to that potentially, but by the same token, I mean, you're now telling me that you can't make ends meet and you can't get the child the pair of, sneakers that he needs to be on the football or the soccer or whatever. And it's, to me, again, it's very easy for me to say, but I mean, you need to be able to speak up and say, hey, this is for our children. This isn't for me.
My ex-husband lost everything.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I demand the child support. Yeah. And, his mother happened to have deep pockets. Yeah. So I was able to get it through her. Yeah. And I told him, I said, this is not for me. Yeah. It's for our kids.
I have a client who is battling the father of her children, and he has, I bet, upwards of $170,000 in child support arrears. And she just hasn't really bothered with it because she knows that if she really pushes hard, he's going to come back and try to get even more parenting time, which she doesn't want because, the children are telling her like, hey, we're just, please don't, we don't want to spend more time with dad right now, just kind of keep things as is. And so I always tell people, I mean, everybody's circumstance is very unique, but ultimately at some point, kind of you have to weigh really what that's worth.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about grandparents' rights because can we talk about grandparents' rights
for
a second? Because so I think that's an important distinction, and that's happening a lot more these days.
Welcome back, everyone. So at the break, we've been talking a little bit to Facebook land, and I do love when we do that because I really learned so much more. We are talking with Susan Pintel. She is the owner of Pintel Family Law, and when it comes to getting a divorce, there's a lot of things that everybody needs to know about, but also there's a lot of people who have children together and they're not married at all. You wanted to talk about grandparents. I want to let you go with whatever you want to say right now.
This is so much. I've been practicing for 18 years, and I'm seeing a lot more of the situation where I get people that say, "Hey, look, I'm raising my granddaughter, or I'm raising my grandchildren," and I see that a lot more for a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, sometimes it has to do with the parent has passed away. Sometimes it has to do with the parent has an alcohol issue or a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue, and it's just for lack of a better word, it's like it's just easier instead of going through the proper legal channels to just kind of take care of the grandchild, and that's admirable. Let me just say that. I think what most grandparents need to understand, though, from the family law perspective, if you go into family court and you say, look, you know, my daughter or my son is back, or the other parent is back, and I don't know, my grandchild has been living with me, and this is not an exaggeration, I have this all the time, like for the past 8 years, I've been raising my grandchild. That's a lifetime for some children. And now the parent is back, and what I want people to know is that the parent does have first standing, first position, okay? So as a grandparent, if you go into family court, at most what the attorney will be able to do is really get you just like 1 day of visitation per month. And that's, I need to put that out there because it's really startling to go from, I was the primary caregiver for this child or children, and now under the law and family court, I'm just gonna get 1 day per month. Like, how is that possible? But that's how the law works, especially if the parent wants back in. I'm not gonna talk necessarily about what you can do, but if there is a situation where the parent is neglectful or there was abuse, and that's why you started as a grandparent to get care of the child, juvenile court is a completely different animal, and that's a different mechanism, and you can look at guardianships and you can look at other alternatives, but that again is, you're going to have to prove abuse and neglect, and I don't know that there are too many people out there who are able to really take that step legally. So I just want people to understand, because grandparents come to me all the time and say, why can't you do more for me? And my answer is because if there is a parent out there who can take the child and they're maybe not raising the child to your satisfaction, but there is no abuse or neglect, that parent gets to parent, and you take the second, back seat, so to speak, and you're only going to get about 1 day per month of visitation time.
You know what I love about you the most? You are very straightforward. Yeah. We talked about it earlier. You're very honest. And I think what you want to do is help educate the people out there. You're listening, but also for people who might want to need to call in and really have to ask you those questions that they have, because sometimes you hear it and you don't really hear the whole thing, right? And that makes it hard. But so she does do a free 1 hour.
Half hour.
I'm sorry.
Half hour phone consultation.
I have to change that. So it's a half hour and it's virtual.
Well, I can do a free half-hour phone consultation. That's free of charge.
Okay.
If you want to do a 1 hour virtual consult, that is at a minimal hourly rate. It's not my full hourly rate, and I do that for people who have maybe a little bit more on their plate in terms of, hey, I want to show you the current child support order, or hey, I want to show you the parenting plan, and I need your input in terms of what I can request in terms of a child support modification. So during the 1 hour virtual, I do accept documents to be sent to me before that, so that I can kind of put together an informal child support worksheet, just so you can get a blueprint of where you want to go. And I think it's really helpful because, like I said, I'm all about helping people and educating people, and I certainly don't want to get a client who I really honestly know I cannot help, in the sense that the judicial system is not going to give them what they expect. I really believe that I get a lot of word of mouth and just a really great client base, because I do want people to understand what is possible in the legal system. Sure. and make sure that I'm telling them this is absolutely feasible and doable, instead of getting people who are just very upset that they didn't get what they expected.
We're still lost.
Yeah.
Now, this was the one, is that there are kids sometimes that say, I do not want to be with that parent.
Yeah, and that's a really hard one, and I have to tell people there's this really huge misconception. I get this all the time. My child is 16 years old, and I was told that if they don't want to go be with the other parent, well, then they don't have to. I'm going to loop back to AI for a second, because if you really look at that, it's interesting, because even 10 years ago, some judges would say, okay, if the child is 16 or 17 years old, we're not going to force them. And the pendulum swung in the other direction. And right now we are in that place where absolutely judges will say, you guys are the parents, those are the children. They may not want to go with the other parent, but unless we find a really good reason to modify the parenting plan, your job as the adult in that scenario is to tell the child, this is the parenting plan, and yes, you do have to go be with mom, or you do have to go be with dad. And it's important to know that, because if you don't do that as the parent and the police show up on your doorstep and there's clear proof that you are violating the court order, there is going to be a police report that will potentially be generated that will be used against you in court, and you don't really want to go into court already with that strike against you.
It's got to be really hard on the kid.
It is, but again, and that's where it's a really hard job for me, but again, in the interest of educating the parent, I have to tell them, you have to let the child know, without really, getting them so involved in the case that now they're feeling guilty or they're taking sides. You have to let the child know that I am, just like your father or mother, whoever is on the other side, we are bound by this, and if something's not working, then I need to talk to an attorney and see if there's enough basis to make a modification. But until that point arises, please help me keep a really clean record, follow the order. I need to follow the order. So it's really hard, but yeah, that's what you need to do.
So, how many people even know to do that?
Not enough.
Because how many people just say, oh, it's okay, honey, you don't have to go with daddy. I understand why you don't want to be with him. Whatever, right?
Carol, that's what I'm saying. Like, I got 3 calls from 3 different people this past week saying, I just got served with a petition for contempt. Like, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing what my child is asking me to do. And I understand from a human point of view, I get that, and I can't disagree with you. But from a legal point of view, you've now just stepped into a quagmire of what you're doing is essentially telling the judge, I don't care about the court order. And that's not necessarily true. But if you find a problem, and if your kid comes back, again, this happens all the time, right? And only the child knows. Hey, Mom, this is what's going on at Dad's house, right? Like, I don't get fed dinner because he doesn't come home late. Or, hey, Dad, this is what's going on with Mom. Like, her new boyfriend or whatever, they're out there smoking
swinging off the chandelier.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if the kid comes home and is of an appropriate age, and what I mean by appropriate, it's typically 13 years or older, you can do a child interview, or if the issues are more complex and they've been going on for a longer period of time, ask an attorney about the use of a court-appointed advisor, because that's a third party appointed by the court, goes in, talks to you, talks to the other parent, talks to the children, right? Because that's key.
I think that's great.
Yeah, it comes directly from the child. The child's not going to be exaggerating. Okay, 9 out of 10 times. I mean, really, the child is on point. It's a report. The judges use it, and so that gets the information in. Because if you just go in and say, "Hey, I know that this is going on at Mom's house," or "Hey, I know that this is going on at Dad's house," the judge looks at you and says, "Ma'am or sir, how can you possibly know that? You're not there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and how many people make up stuff? I'm sure.
Yeah.
But what I love about it is that takes you away from it.
Yes.
Because this obviously can be very emotional.
Absolutely.
And I think it's wonderful that they offer this. I mean, here's again, where else but on Networking Arizona would you learn these things? And I think it's awesome that we're here doing this, because there's so many people out there, they don't know the rules. They make up their own rules, and then you get yourself in trouble. I think the best thing that you can do is get that half-hour consultation. It is free to do, and start there. And again, what I think is so great about you is, first of all, you don't miss a beat,
Thank you.
and then, but that you're there to help them understand completely. Because sometimes you'll go to somebody and they start talking, you don't even know what they said.
I get a lot of clients who come back to me. I'm not joking. I had a gentleman come back to me. He said, "I kept your number from 3 years ago."
Happens all the time with me too.
Yeah, because you treat people well, you tell them the truth, no matter how hard it is to hear, and they appreciate that and they remember that.
And you know what? Situations happen. It changes for a minute. It gets good. It gets bad. But everybody does things. I always say this to people. They do it when they're ready.
Absolutely.
And they hold on to those numbers.
Yeah.
And they call when they're ready.
I don't want to pressure people. I just want people to know, I will give you advice about what you need to make your case the strongest, but I won't rush you, and I will basically tell you what the legal system can provide for you. Absolutely.
Her phone number is 480-397-2261, or you can text at 520-355-4483. It's PENTELLaw.com.